Hello, everyone. Welcome to our community meeting for today, March 21st, 2024. Before we begin, we will hear some brief messages from our translation services today. I'm David Fong with the San Jose Planning Division. Also with us is Perna Ancola, Supervising Planner. Our discussion item today is file number PP23-007, an ordinance update related to ADU condominiums, residential development standards, a new use downtown, bicycle parking, and permanent supportive housing. Here's our agenda for today. We started with introductions. Next, we will start our presentation on the proposed changes in this update. Please save your questions until after this presentation, when we will have our Q&A portion, where we will share our responses and have a discussion on possible changes or actions. We will end this presentation with a timeline for this update and next steps. Staff routinely updates the zoning code to incorporate changes to align with new state law mandates and other requests. This zoning code update incorporated modifications to conform with current state mandates and to make zoning code consistent with prior general plan amendments and directives from our city council. There was no specific development proposed that initiated or were part of these changes. Here are the items proposed for this update. To begin with, we are introducing a new section in our zoning ordinance to potentially allow the sale of ADUs as condominiums in accordance with recent State Assembly Bill number 1033. This is followed by some more routine updates, including some updates to our single-family residential development standards. We are allowing the indoor sale of zero-emission vehicles in the downtown zoning districts. We are reinserting text related to bicycle parking requirements inadvertently omitted in the previous parking code update. And lastly, we'll be incorporating minor edits to the definition of permanent supportive housing code to align with state law. Our first item is ADU condominiums. AB 1033 was effective on January 2024 to allow the sale of ADUs as condominiums. The zoning code does not currently allow the sale of ADUs separate from the primary dwelling they are associated with. As far as we know, we will be among the first few cities to explore ADU condominiums. Staff is still working out the details and exploring a planning process to review these conversions. This will involve a parcel map through our Public Works Department and possibly an administrative permit process through the Planning Department. We look forward to hearing from our stakeholders on their experiences with prior projects. Per AB 1033, state law mandates that the primary requirement for every ADU condominium project is conformance with the Davis-Sterling Act for the formation and maintenance of common interest developments. It provides HOAs with authority to develop CC&Rs and regulate their maintenance, repair, and placement of common areas. Another critical requirement is for the property owner to obtain their lender or lien holder's approval for creation of ADU condos. The conveyance of separate utilities must be addressed by the property owner, and building safety inspection must be completed before the approval of a subdivision map. A parcel map approval and recordation will be required for creation of ADU condominium. Apart from the key requirements we discussed in the previous slide, compliance with fire code, especially related to fire rating separation and sprinkler requirements, must be addressed. A final site map that includes the common areas and staff is proposing either an administrative permit or use of a planning checklist as a preliminary planning process to review the site plan. Both processes do not involve a public hearing. Here are mandatory submittal requirements that staff has identified, including an application checklist, title, deed document, ADU permit issuance, lien holder approval, separate utilities for electric, gas, water, and sewer for each unit, fire code compliance for separation of units, building final permit, HOA formulation, a condominium plan including all common areas, a detailed site plan or boundary map. The separation of utilities and fire department compliance are requirements that the property owner must consider and work through early in the process. Moving on to our next section of the update, we are making some minor edits to our single-family residential code section. These are clarifying changes that would benefit homeowners. Number one, we are clarifying that the walkways and landings that do not exceed 2 feet in height will be allowed inside setbacks. The way our code is currently written, technically nothing is allowed in the side setback, including necessary landings for door openings or concrete steps for slope lots. Retaining walls are to be allowed in the front and corner side setbacks. Our current code will require a development permit to construct these necessary structures. We will also be clarifying that overhangs that do not extend more than 2 feet from the structure or building will not be counted towards rear yard coverage. This will provide a larger allowance and more clarity and consistency when we are doing our project reviews. The use of indoor sales of zero-emission vehicles will be added to our downtown zoning districts. This is in Chapter 20.70 of San Jose Zoning Code. This proposed change and use is consistent with general plan designation and policies, and this would help attract additional businesses to the downtown zoning districts. Vehicle sales is a common use in other commercial districts, so it makes sense to add it to the downtown. The indoor use would be non-disruptive to city streets and other circulations. Bicycle parking. We are talking about the bicycle parking ratio requirements for multifamily residential development. The proposed change is to put back in the requirement for bicycle parking ratio to be 60% short-term and 40% long-term. This was an oversight that this portion of the code was taken out when we did our major parking ordinance overhaul a year ago. This update is simply to reinsert the omitted text. For permanent supportive housing, for this item, we are making minor updates in 2 areas. First, we are updating sections 20.195.010 and 20.195.020 of the zoning code to include recent references to California government code sections for permanent supportive housing. More specifically, to reference section 65650, the state supportive housing law, section 65660, the state low barrier navigation centers law, section 65913.4, the state streamlined ministerial approval process, and section 65912, the section for affordable housing. And the last item we are updating is the definition of permanent supportive housing to align with the state. The reworded definition will consider properties with at least 25% of units dedicated to supportive housing as a permanent supportive housing project, as long as the remainder of the units are dedicated to deed restricted units. This definition will align with the state's definition. As part of secret requirements, staff has prepared a determination of consistency to analyze changes in the proposed amendment discussed today. No new significant impacts beyond those already identified in a general plan and supplemental EIRs will result. No specific development proposal is a part of the amendments to Title 20. The upcoming timeline for this code update will be review of the proposed changes via a public hearing by the Airport Land Use Commission and Planning Commission. Both are scheduled to be on May 22nd, 2024, with the City Council hearing scheduled for June 11th, 2024. And potentially, this ordinance will be effective sometime in mid-July. This is the end of my presentation. We can now answer any questions that you may or can then discuss any items for more clarification. Thank you.